All right, guys, we are starting our new unit, which is India and China. This unit will be 5 days of notes, and then we'll do our review day and test. And we're going to start with Hinduism. It's one of our 5 major world religions that we cover this year. And to get started, we will review a little bit of the Indus River Valley to see how we get to Hinduism. So we know that after the Harappan civilization disappears, we get the Aryans who move through the Hindu Kush mountains using the Khyber Pass. And they will settle in northern India. This happens around 1750 BCE. The Aryans had been a nomadic people, and their time living in Central Asia on the steppe, they were not reading or writing. They were not a literate society. But as they move into India, they would begin to write down what we know as the Vedas. They're sacred prayers, spells, and instructions for performing rituals. So the Vedas are going to be the holy books for the Aryans, as well as for the religion of Hinduism. And the Rig Veda was the most important of the Vedas. These were hymns or songs to the Aryan gods. So the Aryans are going to move and settle into India. The Aryans were tall, had lighter skin, and had been nomadic. They had been warlike when they lived on the steppe. Their word for war meant desire for more cows. The people living there were the Dravidians, or non-Aryans. These were the descendants of the earlier Harappans we had talked about. And compared to the Aryans, they were shorter, had darker skin, and they had been settled. And they were more peaceful compared to the Aryans. So as the Aryans took control of society, they hardened their class restrictions based on skin color. It kept the Aryans at the top and the Dravidians at the bottom. So they used this to regulate their society to keep themselves in positions of power. The Aryans would formalize the social hierarchy with laws to keep themselves at the top of society. And they had a word for social class or social level. That word was Varna, which means caste, as we call the system that they created the caste system. Varna also meant skin color. Okay, so this was based on being lighter skinned like an Aryan or darker skinned like a Dravidian. And for us, if we remember the caste system as like a cast on our arm, if you break your arm and they put a cast on it, you can no longer bend your arm. So this social hierarchy was unbending. Your Varna or social level decided who you could get married to, what type of job you could get, and what neighborhood you lived in. It pretty much decided all of your life you're going to do the same job that your father held before. And if you're a woman, you'll marry someone of the same class as your parents. From there, the Varna was broken down into Jati, and these are groups based on occupation in your caste. So all of the shoemakers kind of hang out together, okay? If you were a soldier of the warrior class, those would be the people that you would spend your time with. And in this system, there was no social mobility. In the United States, we have a lot of social mobility. You can be someone of a lower class and hit the lottery, and you can move up to the wealthy class very quickly. We also don't have very distinct lines. You can't go to the mall and look at someone and tell whether they are in the middle class or the working class and so forth. While in India, under this caste system, it would be very easy to tell where somebody ranked in society. So this is what the caste system would look like. At the top we have the Brahmins. Next group are the Kshatriyas. Below them, the Vaishyas. And then finally, the Shudras. If you look, there's a little gap between the Shudras and the lowest class of society, the pariahs. We'll talk about who the pariahs are in just a second and why they are broken off from the rest of this caste system. We'll talk about each on the next slide. So the idea of Varna, which had been the same in the Aryan. So Hinduism will become the predominant religion of India. Hinduism is a collection of beliefs that developed over a long period of time, 2,000 to 3,000 years. And it has no single founder. There is not one person we can trace the belief system of Hinduism all the way back to. And that's different from our other major world religions where we can find one single founder who came up with the basis for the religion. Hinduism is an Eastern tradition, and like Buddhism, which we'll talk about in our next set of notes, the idea is to liberate oneself from suffering, unlike a Western religion where it usually focuses on the worship of God. The picture we see here is the Om. It's spelled O-M or A-U-M, and that's the symbol for Hinduism. It looks like a 30 with like an apostrophe between the 3 and the 0. This Om signifies the essence of ultimate reality, but it's also a syllable that's chanted before or after a spiritual recitation. Okay, when I think about it, I think about yoga, and at the end of a yoga session, there's some meditation and they will chant the Om. So we know the Aryans brought the Vedas with them. Eventually they were written down and would become the sacred writings of Hinduism. We also have the Upanishads, and those were the ideas of religious philosophers. They were written down between 750 and 550 BCE, and the philosophers would interpret the hymns of the Vedas, and these were written down in order to try to tell people how they should follow Hinduism, kind of like as a guidebook. They were written as dialogues. In a dialogue, how many people are speaking to one another? Go ahead and write that in the chat. How many people are speaking in a dialogue? So a dialogue is when you have two people speaking to each other. So it's almost like they are a question and answer session of how to follow some of the main ideas of Hinduism. So the question you might be asking yourself is Hinduism a polytheistic religion with many gods or a monotheistic religion with one god? And for us, in our class, we would consider Hinduism a polytheistic religion. And it said the gods are concrete forms of the Brahman or world soul. But some Hindus would say, no, Hinduism is actually monotheistic as there is only one Brahman or world soul. So what's the world soul? One of the easiest ways to think about that is to think about the Star Wars series. It was created by George Lucas, and Lucas studied Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism. And one of the ideas that he brought into his Star Wars movies was the idea of the Force, which in his movies play out a lot like the world soul does for Hindus. This world soul is around everybody. You can't see it, but it connects all things, including people and the gods. Think about when someone gets an engagement ring. It's usually a diamond. And when they get this diamond engagement ring and they're showing it off to all their friends, they kind of wave their hand around. Why are they waving their hand around? What are they trying to do? So when they're showing it off and waving their hand around, they're trying to make it shimmer, okay, and the light. A diamond is cut in a way that it has many facets or faces. And when it moves in the light, it's going to shimmer and look a little bit different depending on how you're holding it up to that light. And no matter how you hold it, it's always still the same diamond. No matter how it looks as it shines in the light, it's still the same diamond. And that's how Hinduism works. You've got this diamond, which could represent the world soul. And when it looks different, that would be different gods being represented through the facets. Okay? So these gods appear because of the world soul. So that concept can be a little difficult to understand. To simplify, for us, Hinduism has many gods, therefore they are polytheistic. The important gods that we'll cover later in the notes are Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Hindus believe that a person is made up of two components, the Atman, or the soul, and the body. And the goal of Hinduism is to attain moksha. And in moksha, that's where the soul, or Atman, breaks free from the material world and unites with the Brahman, or world soul. So it becomes part of that entity that is all around us that we can't see, that connects the universe. So moksha means to gain perfect understanding. And in doing so, your soul has moved on from the body. But to attain moksha will take many lifetimes. And if it takes many lifetimes, what do Hindus therefore believe in? What idea or concept that you've probably heard of before? So yes, they believe in reincarnation. We'll talk about that next. So Hindus believe in reincarnation. That's the rebirth of the soul. So when your physical body dies, your soul or Atman will then inhabit a new body. So Hindus believe that while you are alive, your job is to fulfill your dharma, or your duty to your caste. So to fulfill your dharma, if you were a shoemaker, your father before you was a shoemaker, you're going to be the best shoemaker you can possibly be, even if you're not good at it. That would be fulfilling your dharma. Same for someone who was a warrior. You might be a terrible soldier, but you're not going to shirk your duties. You're going to do the best you can at it, even if you go off to war and you're the first one who dies in battle. Okay, so you must fulfill your dharma. And you also want to attain good karma. Karma is your good or bad actions. And how you live your life at that time determines what you will be in the next life. So you want to live a good life, fulfill your dharma, attain good karma. And when your physical body dies, you will be reincarnated into a higher level of caste. You'll move up in the social ranking. So you don't move up in the social ranking or the caste system when you're alive. You do that after your physical body dies and your Atman or soul is reborn. Now the opposite can happen. If you don't fulfill your dharma, you will attain bad karma and you'll be reincarnated into a lower caste or form. So this picture is going to depict the reincarnation process. We start here with a commoner. And when this commoner dies, their Atman or soul will be reborn, this time into the body of a warrior. When the warrior dies, the Atman will be reborn once again, this time as a scholar, eventually a priest, finally the wife of a priest, and eventually, after all of these lifetimes of building up good karma by performing their dharma, they will eventually reach moksha, which means they have attained perfect understanding of the universe, and they will become one with the Brahman or world soul upon their death. Their Atman will break free of the material world. And the caste system was strong because Hindus believed that the upper classes had earned their higher position in life by fulfilling their dharma over all these lifetimes and building up good karma, while the lower classes were paying for the bad actions they had in previous lives. So now they had the life that they deserved, and they had to then fulfill their dharma to start moving back up the caste system and attaining a higher caste or class in their next life. So we would have holy men called gurus who could explain the Vedas to the followers of Hinduism. We use that term guru today. If you're a fitness guru, you know a lot about working out and people come to you for answers. If you're a tech guru, you're the guy who knows everything about computers. Hindus believe in ahimsa, which means nonviolence, which they're in practice. And to follow Hinduism, you must pray, take part in religious rituals, try to live a life of self-denial. That means you would get rid of the excesses in your life, things that you don't really need to survive. And eventually, if you are in the upper caste, as you get older, you would reject your worldly possessions. You no longer need anything as your body prepares to die and your Atman is preparing to be released and become part of the world soul as you attain moksha. So as we said, the Brahman is the world soul. And the Brahman is seen as having the personality of three main gods, although there are many, many more minor gods. But those three gods are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And those are the forms that the Brahman or world soul would take to show itself to humans. Brahma is seen as the creator god, and when we look at the picture, we can see some otherworldly or supernatural features like many arms and many faces. Brahma would have four faces, as from each mouth came one of the four Vedas. And he is also floating on a lotus petal. And over time, Brahma would be overshadowed by other gods, and in some cases even replaced by Devi, the mother goddess. We also have Vishnu. Vishnu is seen as the protector or preserver god of Hinduism. And Vishnu could also take other forms. He could also be seen as Krishna, the divine cowherder, going back to the days where the Aryans lived as nomadic cowherders, or Rama, the perfect king. So Vishnu has the ability, like other gods, to take other forms as well, depending on what is needed at that time. Finally, we have Shiva, the destroyer. And again, Shiva can take other forms as well. Like our other religions that we'll talk about later this year, there are different branches or sects, S-E-C-T-S, sects of Hinduism. And there's no one right way to follow Hinduism. There are different paths that one can take. And with those different paths are different gods that you may follow. We have Jainism. which is a sect or branch of Hinduism. And they believe that all living things have souls and should not be harmed. And if you look at the picture, they're wearing masks over their faces. And this is a picture taken well before the pandemic. And they're wearing those masks to make sure that a fly can't fly into their mouth and accidentally be killed. Jains are vegetarians. They do not eat meat. And they would work in trade and commerce because those jobs don't harm living things. They wouldn't become farmers because if you're a farmer and you are plowing the soil, you might accidentally crush or kill bugs and worms along the way. So they try to take part in jobs which don't harm any living things. If they follow this idea of ahimsa or nonviolence towards all, to the most extreme, they wouldn't be able to survive. They would die from starvation because to get even vegetables, you've got to harm living things in order to do that as part of the process. So they do the best they can, okay? They're even known to walk on a sidewalk and take a broom with them to brush bugs and caterpillars and worms off the sidewalk so that people don't step on them. The Jains will also stress tolerance of other religions, and they don't send out missionaries. A missionary is someone who tries to spread their religion. They say that everyone should do what is best for them and follow their own system of beliefs. Okay, so that's it for Hinduism. We will cover Buddhism in our next class and see the similarities and differences that it has with Hinduism.